Hello, I'm Old Norse specialist Dr. Jackson Crawford. Every culture deals with the fact that hate and enmity inevitably arise between men with conflicting interests, and that those men are probably going to say some hateful, slanderous, and insulting things about each other. In Old Norse, the word for hateful, slanderous, or insulting speech is níð, and the ultimate way of expressing níð is to carve a Níðstång, or Níð-pole, slander pole. In translations into English of the sagas of Icelanders, this is often translated scorn-pole. The most famous scorn-pole is in the saga of Egill Skallagrímsson. In 10th century Norway, Egill was hounded by his enemies, King Erik Bloodaxe and Queen Gunhild, till finally he was about to leave the country after murdering their teenage son in a wild act of revenge. But before leaving, he decided to carve a scorn-pole. Now to do this, he took a pole of hazelwood on which he put a mare's decapitated head, and he faced the head of the mare toward the land. Now a mare is regarded as a very insulting thing to call another man for somewhat obvious sexual implications thereof, but also a mare's head is apparently considered somewhat frightening toward the land spirits, or landvættir. These are spirits described only in a very vague way that guard particular lands or countries. They seem to be somewhat related to the Disir that preside over human families. So Egill faces this pole with the mare's head on top toward the land, and he says that the landvættir of Norway will never find rest. He curses them to never find rest till they have driven King Erik Bloodaxe and Queen Gunhild out of Norway. Then he carves that same curse on the pole in runes and departs for Iceland for what he thinks is for good. This is the most famous Níðstång in the sagas, but it's not perhaps the most detailed description of one. There is also a Níðstång in the saga of the people of Vatnsdal, Vatnsdula saga. Now in this saga, one of the protagonists, a man named Egill, has challenged a really just nasty piece of work from another farm named Berger to a duel. And when he challenges him to the duel in public, he says that Berger will be every man's Níðingur. So Níðingur being someone who is subject to slander, so basically someone who will be mocked and slandered by everyone, and deservedly so. And that he will also be called by the Griðnýðingsnafn, by the name of a person who is a treasonous person. It's difficult to translate exactly as Grið is an agreement, a treaty, and then Níðing is someone subject to slander, so someone who is subject to slander because of going back on a treaty or agreement. The specific words of his curse are Hann skal vera hvers Níðingur og vera hvergi í samlagi góðra manna og hafa góða gremi og Griðnýðingsnafn. He will be every man's Níðingur, right, subject to slander by every man, and he will be never in the company of good men, and he will have the anger of the gods and the name of a treasonous man, someone who's gone back on an agreement. Well, the day of the treaty, the day that the duel has been agreed to comes up, and Egill goes to where the duel is supposed to be fought, but Berger has a witch friend who apparently calls up a snowstorm to prevent him from going to the duel, where I suppose she fears that he'll be killed. When Berger doesn't show up because of the snowstorm, Egill slanders him for his cowardice and not coming to the duel, and erects a Níðstång, or scorn-pole. He takes a long pole from a shed that's nearby, and then he kills a mare that's sheltering under there. This time, unlike Egill, he doesn't cut the head off of the mare. He actually splits the mare down the barrel and puts her entire body on top of the pole, faces the mare on top of the pole toward the farm of Berger, and then speaks the same curse that he'll be every man's Níðingur and a Griðnýðingur, and etc. And then carves that in runes and goes away, having thoroughly cursed his cowardly opponent. Now, whether the Níðstång was a legitimate tradition of Viking times is of course uncertain. Such a thing wouldn't survive in the archaeological record, but it has a prominent place in many of the sagas and reminds us just how much a man's reputation depended on the good word of his neighbors in a time before mass communication. If you are a Níðingur, everyone would slander you, and you would have a very hard time getting the respect or help of your neighbors if these conflicts of words turned into conflicts of axes and spears. For now, from beautiful Colorado, I'm wishing you all the best.